Dr. Darko, once you start speaking, I'll turn my camera off. So.
My camera on or off?
I think
Off. Thank you.
I think off for the moment, and then I'll say, and then you can turn it on.
Okay.
All right. And then once you're on, I'll turn mine off.
Lori, I think we can start. Looks like we have about.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, no, we've got a lot of people in already. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for Operationalizing the African Medicines Agency Strategy, Sustainable Financing, and Industry Engagement. This is the inaugural virtual session in a briefing series on national regulatory authorities that is part of CCA's U.S. Africa Health Security and Resilience Initiative, HSRI. This series is designed to give CCA members and other stakeholders a platform to hear directly from industry and policy leaders, exchange insights, and learn about U.S. and African government and corporate efforts focused on regulatory systems, strengthening and advancing regulatory harmonization across Africa's growing health sector. We are honored to be joined today by Dr. Delese Mimi Darko, Director General of the African Medicines Agency. Dr. Darko, thank you for your leadership and for taking the time to launch this series with us. We truly appreciate your participation. I also want to extend a special thank you to the members of our HSRI Regulatory Harmonization Advisory Boards on Pharmaceuticals and Medical Technology. We have two of them. We thank you for your continued input and support in building the HSRI Regulatory Harmonization Network. The network is a strategic private sector-driven platform convened under HSRI that brings together industry leaders, regulators, and experts to advance regulatory convergence, implementation, and impact across Africa's health product value chains. Our goal is to highlight practical regulatory approaches that accelerate patient access, strengthen regulatory systems, and improve market readiness at the country level, while creating opportunities for policy engagement, partnership building, and thought leadership. We invite you to join the network and stay connected. Please scan the QR code that you see on our screen to sign up and receive updates on upcoming briefings and opportunities so that you can continue to engage with us. In today's session, Dr. Darko will share insights on AMA's operationalization, covering the strategic planning process, approaches to sustainable financing, including donor funding and user fees, and opportunities for private sector engagement. We'll also discuss how alignment between AMA priorities and private sector needs can help advance market access, sector growth, and stronger health regulatory systems on the continent. A few quick housekeeping notes before we get started. We'll be using the Q&A box to collect questions throughout the session. Please submit your questions at any time and include your name and organization. We'll hold questions until the moderated discussion portion following Dr. Darko's remarks. With that, Dr. Darko, thank you again for joining us. We're looking forward to your remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. This is a huge audience, and I hope I can do justice.
Well, I'm sure you will. We're sure that you will.
So the question that I'll start with is why AMA and why now? Africa has 55 member states. Each of them has a regulatory authority. Each of them is a sovereign country with their own rules. So why should we have an AMA? I mean, and that is a question that most of the time we get asked. But Africa's landscape is evolving rapidly. We have new products, we have new technologies, etc. And I remember the biggest move for AMA was probably during COVID when we had Africa not getting equitable importation of vaccines or equitable use of vaccines for its population. And what was happening was that vaccines were going into countries, they would be evaluated at national level. And if you managed to do it, you could get the vaccine because as regulators, even though there's a pandemic, our most important um, mandate is to ensure that people are safe, the patients are safe, or the population is safe. So that was what happened during COVID, and that gave the last push that was needed to ensure that AMA came into being. Now, AMA provides the continental, what you call the continental platform for reliance, for convergence, and for efficiency. And the main reason for AMA's establishment is to ensure that we have reduced fragmentation, we have increased predictability. So if there's a pandemic, we know that within a certain time, all countries or all member states can get access to vaccines in emergencies, in pandemics, and for priority diseases. And at the end of the day, the most important person in all this is the patient. So you want to ensure that patient access in all this is paramount. And that is why the Africa Medicines Agency was established. Now, it was established as by an Africa Union treaty and an assembly decision. Now, the 54 treaty, you need member states to sign and ratify the treaty. And so far, we have 32 out of the 55 who have signed and ratified the treaty, and we have another 23 left. What AMA became operational fully in October of 2025. And what AMA is not there for is to replace the national regulatory authorities. All the countries are sovereign countries, but AMA is going to act as a system integrator. It's going to act as the coordination for all the regulatory agencies, so that with one application that is centrally reviewed by AMA, AMA can give what we call a scientific opinion, and all the state parties. State parties are those who have signed and ratified the treaty. All the state parties can have access to that report from the review that AMA has coordinated and can take a decision at national level. So at the end of the day, AMA is designed to strengthen national systems, enabling that continental scale of products, but not to replace national agencies. So we always say that AMA will work through the national agencies, coordinate their efforts, strengthen them to be able to make a decision. AMA is almost similar to the European Medicines Agency, but the difference is that they, at the moment, the EMA agency, which is the agency like AMA, has decisions that are binding on its countries. AMA is not there yet. So at the moment, AMA would coordinate a review, and an opinion is given, and member states or state parties can take that positive opinion given by AMA and then do the approval themselves. We're hoping that in a very short time, um, maybe binding decisions will happen, but at least AMA is building that trust so that by the time we get there, when AMA issues an opinion, the countries will just take it, even though it may not be binding. So at the moment, since October, what AMA has been doing is that we've been strategically planning our operationalization. And what we are doing is that we there's a lot of expectation from AMA. So what we're saying is that we are using a phased and risk-based implementation focus. So just about a week ago, we had a meeting of all the heads of NRAs on the continent, and the idea was that AMA is there to support all countries. But if we have a strategic plan of how we want to operate, we will have to get the opinion or the needs of the countries that we represent in our strategic plan. So as part of that, we had all the heads of NRAs together. We had a discussion. We showed them our draft strategic plan and asked them to make inputs. And so the idea is that AMA wants to go in a certain way, but do the countries that AMA represent want to go in the same way? So that was a meeting that we had last week, which was very successful. And we will now, we now know exactly what they want. We now know exactly what their needs are. We have assured the agencies that AMA is not going to replace them. And so everyone is comfortable. So our priorities as an agency is first, before you can be recognized as what I would call a credible or be trusted, you have to ensure that you have a good quality management system in place. And so one of our first priorities is to ensure that we operate in line with ISO 9001 2017, and also to ensure that we have a good quality management system in place. And then our second priority is to ensure that we strengthen regulatory capacity. If you look at the mandate of AMA, is to enhance the capabilities of state parties to ensure that good reviews can be done, or good assessments can be done. So we will strengthen the capacity of our member states, the NRAs, which is the regulatory authorities in the individual countries, do a dashboard. A strategy is to ensure that they have the capacity they need to be able to do reviews for AMA. The next priority is to ensure that even if we do nothing at all, we should ensure that the quality and the safety of the products that are on the continent, that are approved on the continent, are monitored. So we have a continental safety and quality management system that we intend to put in place very, very quickly. The next priority is to ensure that with all this, we need digital platforms. We have the appropriate digital platforms that allows us to speak very, very quickly in a very short time. If there's an alert, if there's a review that has to be communicated, we have the necessary digital platforms in place. And the last thing is that we would also have one of the key, I would call it our flagship programs, will be AMA's SME and Innovations Office. Now, this office is set up for what we all call early engagement with industry. There are two pathways for this. So the SME office is to support local manufacture of products on the continent, ensure that they are, if there's any technology transfer from an innovator company, AMA can support that African company to be able to manufacture in accordance with the right standards. And then the innovation office is there so that companies that are out of the continent, in other jurisdictions, that want to engage AMA with new innovations, with new products, can actually come to the regulator, the continental regulator, early. So we call that early engagement. So there's a new vaccine, there's a new monoclonal antibody that is supposed to be sold or manufactured in Africa. AMA becomes that stop point for the innovator to come seek for early regulatory advice, what pathways can be used, what companies exist that can take these products, how does Africa want the quality to be monitored, the safety. So that office is there to ensure that there are clear timelines and clear pathways to ensure that the products can be made available onto the market very quickly. That's become our priorities for industry, and I think that is one of the best things that we could do for industry. So the scientific advice, the regulatory exchange, etc. AMA is also going to monitor, have a continental platform for clinical trials. As we know now, most products that are used in emergencies and pandemics are products that may not have gone through the full clinical trial phase, from phase 1 to phase 3, before they have to be rolled out very quickly in innovation, in emergencies and pandemics, or any priority diseases. So AMA is there to ensure that if there's an innovation for Africa, it does not fail because of regulatory barriers. So the idea is that AMA is there to ensure that regulation does not become a barrier to innovation. And that is one of the main things that our scientific office will be doing. What are some of the other priorities of AMA? AMA will, on we have what we call mature regulatory agencies. There are currently 9 of them as benchmarked by WHO. So AMA will rely on some of these agencies for the work that it does. AMA works through technical committees. AMA itself would not be evaluating a product because, as I said earlier, the sovereignty still remains with the countries. But AMA will ensure that we we use the strengths of some of these agencies on the continent to be able to ensure timely access to the products that we regulate. AMA is investing in science. AMA is investing in digital infrastructure. AMA is looking for collaborations around the world. One of our main collaborators is the US FDA at the moment, to do with support to ensure that we can build capacity, to ensure that we can also both ways have US products on the African continent and African products in the US market, so that AMA acts as this betweener to ensure the quality, safety, and efficacy of products that move through the two jurisdictions. We all know that if there's an investment and you don't have strong regulation, it becomes a wasted investment. So AMA is there to ensure that investments into Africa become investments that are maintained and they do not go bad because the regulation was not strong enough. So AMA, as I said, is continental. It is not a replacement for national agencies. It also is not an added bureaucratic barrier. It is not donor driven, it's driven by member states, but it will ensure that the consequences of weak regulatory systems, which is substandard and falsified medicines, products that may be good, but eventually end up not being good because they are not monitored properly. AMA is here to ensure that the systems on the innovations reach patients quickly and investments become strong investments because they end up on the market as products with determined and predictable timelines for getting to the patient and to ensure that the patient gets the best of products that are put on the market. So basically, that is what I can say about AMA. It is a platform for reliance. It's a platform for convergence. It is a platform, a continental regulatory platform that ensures that innovation reaches patients, that ensures that investments continue to thrive, that ensures that local industry becomes a key producer of products for the continent. And at the end of the day, it gets to products get to the patient faster, and the quality products and safe products reach the African patient. So in a nutshell, that is what AMA is about. And if there are any questions, I am very happy to answer them. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Darko. You've really laid out kind of the platform for AMA, its priorities, and sounds like you had an excellent meeting last week with the National Regulatory Authority leads,
Yeah.
which is so important, that coordination
Yeah.
a role that you play. We have some questions from someone from the University of the Witwatersrand Wits Health Consortium. He asks two questions. What is the reciprocal relationship and transfer of confidential information between national regulators and AMA? And then he also asks, will AMA update the opinion on a drug regulatory application as more details from national regulatory authorities become available? So the reciprocal relationship and transfer of confidential information between the NRAs and AMA, and then, will you update your opinions once you get more details from the NRAs?
Okay, so let me start with the first question. So reciprocal information between the NRA and AMA. So the work of AMA is not done by AMA. So if I just emphasize that AMA is going to be working through technical committees, these technical committees are made up of experts from the NRAs. So if a centralized application is being made, so if an industry requires asks for a centralized procedure, and the products for which the license holder, let me use that word carefully, for license holder wants falls under the purview of AMA. AMA convenes a joint review among its technical committees. Okay. So the products are actually then submitted to AMA, the application submitted to AMA, and AMA convenes the joint review. Now, um, the provisions of the treaty are such that confidentiality issues, etc., are taken care of for every member state and for every NRA. Once the application is reviewed, the technical committee looks at it, makes sure that all the parameters, all the assessment, all the modules from module 1 to 5, everything is done, and everything is acceptable, and AMA issues an opinion. That opinion is then taken by the NRA of all the countries of 32 currently, and the NRA then goes ahead to issue the approval. So AMA does not issue approvals at this stage. So the confidentiality issues, I'm not sure what is being asked about, but they are all taken care of in the treaty. So the treaty is very clear on once you sign the treaty, all those issues are addressed. Now, once the product has been given a scientific opinion, a positive scientific opinion, AMA has the continental database for quality and safety monitoring, and this database is going to be continuously populated. Any signals that will come out of it, any information, AMA then would then send that information back once the data is mined back to the country to enable them take the necessary regulatory action. So there will be constant movement of information between AMA and the NRAs that have actually approved or authorized the products for which AMA gave a scientific opinion. So the information, that is why I talked about digital systems, will be made available to the NRAs. If there's any regulatory action that should be taken, AMA coordinates this with the necessary NRAs, and all the NRAs are aware of whatever information or whatever regulatory action that has been taken because of a positive opinion, a product that was given a positive opinion. So that is why we have the continental quality and safety database, and also the network of laboratories on the continent that are going to perform any analysis that should be done will be conducted by this network of regulatory laboratory network of approved African laboratories would be part of this system. So information flow between AMA and the NRAs would be constant. Signal generation, any things that come up. Thank you. I hope that answers the question.
No, I think that was very helpful. So let me ask two questions that are related to medical devices. So one is, are medical devices in the scope of AMA? What role does AMA play in the harmonization of regulations across NRAs in the continent regarding medical devices? And then another question related to medical devices is AMA considering any pilots related to medical devices and or IVDs?
Okay, so thank you very much. Yes, AMA is looking at products that we call complex products, and therefore medical devices fall under complex products. Now, AMA is looking, so if I can start, AMA had a foundation called the Africa Medicines Regulatory Harmonization. That was the foundation for AMA. And then the Africa Vaccines Regulatory Forum was also a foundation for AMA. With the medicines with the medicines, there was a pilot that took place, and I think 10 or 11 products have been given a positive scientific opinion from that pilot. Those products are available in quite a few countries. There is a pilot for medical devices as well. Hopefully, in the next couple of months, that pilot should also run through the same way that the medical products, the medicines pilot also went. That will be the medical devices that have expressed interest in being part of that pilot will be done. But as I said, AMA is interested first in setting up the right systems before doing pilots. If you do not have the right systems in place, for example, you do a listing or give an opinion for a medicine, you need to have the system in place to monitor the safety and the quality. So although there's a medical devices pilot pending, AMA wants to ensure that once that device is listed, or once that device has gone through the pilot, the necessary systems to monitor the quality, the performance, and the safety of that device is in place to immediately support the countries. So yes, there's a pilot that is pending, and we will ensure that once the systems are in place, we go to that pilot. If you look at the European Medicines Agency, it took them quite a few years to do a continental listing because they made sure that necessary systems were in place before a listing is done. There's no point doing a listing without the
Right.
necessary support systems. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Darko. And when you say, if I could just add my own question, do do all of the countries have to have the systems in place before you'll put the list out, or are you hoping that if you have a core group of countries that have the systems in place, you can then go forward? Or does it
We
have to be kind of like everyone is in place and
No.
now?
So this is a continental system that AMA is going to host. Okay.
Okay.
So if there are strong countries that have good what we call safety and quality monitoring regulatory systems in place. So once AMA puts that system, that continental safety and quality monitoring in place, then it is easy for countries to report into a central continental database. What happens is that for a country that doesn't even have it, they will be aware that there is a safety issue or there's a quality issue with that particular product, and then they can then know what actions to take as a result of that system. So you don't have to have all the countries. There's countries that are not that mature. There are countries that are also very mature. So AMA will put that continental one safety system in place, one quality monitoring system in place, and countries feed into it. Information comes in and information is put out. So all 55 or all 32 do not have to have that in place. AMA will act as the convergence system for countries to be able to access that information if the products are on their market. But we continue to build capacity of countries to ensure
Mm,
that if nothing at all happens, at least you have a safety monitoring system and a strong quality monitoring system in place with the support of the network of laboratories. Thank you.
wonderful. Dr. Darko, I'm going to put together, combine a couple of questions that have to do with any key takeaways from the recent engagement with the NRAs. Are there priority countries? And also a related question, someone wanted to know whether SAFRA, the South African Regulatory Authority, has been engaged, and are they amenable to participating in AMA's work? So key takeaways, participation of countries, and maybe, if you're open to it, sharing whether or not SAFRA is involved. If you don't want to, that's fine. But in any case, there are questions about your key takeaways or outcomes from your recent meeting with the NRA heads.
Okay. So with the meeting that we had last week, one of the key takeaways was that one, there was very strong support from the NRAs with clear expectations of what they wanted AMA to do. Um, the key takeaways was that AMA was not going to replace NRAs. AMA was going to add value. So the important thing for them was that AMA was going to come in where they could not, and not to compete with them. So that was some of the key takeaways. And then it was one of the key takeaways that AMA would ensure that it had the platform that would strengthen systems, not bypass them. So AMA will not bypass any national regulatory authority, as I said. The NRAs want AMA to succeed, but to succeed by adding value, not complicating what they already have. So those were some of the key takeaways. And there was also, would AMA be doing, products that they can do? No. We were very clear that AMA would do products that added value. So complex products, medical devices, what you call, vaccines and other products that they wanted. That most agencies may not have the capacity to do. So as they build capacity, the AMA would support them in doing this. the key takeaway was that AMA would look at equitable and distribution of capacity on the continent. And since AMA's mandate is to enhance capacity, AMA would promise, if I could use that word, to ensure that capacity building on the continent was equitable. We had a few partners who were very amenable to that. The key takeaways was that also partners had to also, if countries are being asked not to be fragmented and to have clear, predictable regulatory pathways and to harmonize, then we expected the partners to also be able to do that so that partner input is also harmonized. Partner delivery or partner support is also harmonized so that across the continent, everybody is happy about the capacity that is given them. Generally, the engagement was fruitful, it was positive, and there was a strong support for AMA based on the fact that it would build capacity, based on the fact that it would add value, and based on the fact that it would respect the sovereignty of NRAs and countries. So those were some of the key takeaways. The question was about South Africa. South Africa is in the process. South Africa was at the meeting that we had last week. And as you know, because it is a treaty signing and ratification, it goes through a legislation before. And South Africa is actually almost there. So South Africa should be on board. Hopefully by the end of this year, they should have signed and ratified the AMA Treaty. So they are very, very eager to be a part of this. And they are one of our stronger regulatory authorities, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe. They are some of the stronger agencies that AMA is going to be working very closely with. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let me group another set of questions somewhat related to what you just answered. What has the support been like thus far from party states that have signed and ratified the AMA Treaty, especially when it comes to ensuring financial sovereignty and sustainability of the agency? And what are the barriers faced by the remaining 23 member states that have not fully signed and ratified the treaty? And then someone else also asked about, let me find that question. Yeah, what mechanisms will AMA use to support reliance in non-ratified member states? So, there's interest in that as well. And I think there was another question kind of related to that. No, that's on local manufacturing. We're going to get to that next. Yeah, what is AMA's strategy to ensure that the remaining countries yet to sign, wait a minute, hold on. Remaining countries yet to sign I guess move forward with their process. The chat jumps as people put in new questions. So I was in the middle of reading one when some new questions popped up and threw me off. But I know the general gist of it was, how are you going to get those countries that have not yet signed to move forward?
Okay, so maybe I start from that question, and then I move on. So that is one of AMA's strategies for this year and the next, and it is what we are calling universal ratification. So we actually have engaged the service of the services of an envoy that we call the AMA envoy, and this is the same envoy that actually did the advocacy for AMA to become operational. So we are continuing this because there are 55 member states and AMA is not complete unless it has all the 55 as state parties. So right from, I think probably the end of this month, there's going to be a very strong ratification drive, taking countries, one by one, visiting them, speaking about the benefits of having this continental regulatory body, the benefits to NRAs, the benefits to patients, the benefits to the continent generally. So that is going to start in earnest this month, I believe. And with some of them, I would be, going with the envoy, and others. The envoy will be doing what he did very well before Ahmed came into operation. Another thing is that there's an AU summit coming up next year, and we have a side event where we have all the heads of agents, the heads of states at this summit, and we will speak about the benefits of AMA, and hope that that goes into supports ratification. We are also working with some patient groups, advocacy groups, because at the end of the day, it is access to the patient. And some of them have actually come on board and said, look, we will support, talk about AMA once we know that AMA means access, faster access to patients across the continent. So the ratification strategy is actually very intense, and we will start on this immediately after the summit sometime this month. The next question was about mechanisms to support reliance in non-state parties. I'm assuming that state parties, not member states, so those who have not signed the treaty. So, right. Yes, so for most countries that are being NRA, should I say, that are being supported. NAMA works very closely with the World Health Organizations. Most WHO, most NRAs are being encouraged to have what you call reliance guidelines. Now, if you have a reliance guidelines, that means that you will rely on the reviews that have been done by another agency, another continental body, so the EMA, AMA, etc. So even though if a country says that I rely on an AMA decision, then a country can have that using its reliance guideline and whatever it is that they put in the reliance guideline. AMA also has, as part of the NRA, some of the stronger maturity, WHO maturity level 3 and maturity level 4 agencies, and soon to become WHO listed. So once an NRA or a country has in its regulatory pathway the use of reliance, then they can say that they will rely on any of these that make up the technical expertise of AMA, and they can rely on any of them. So it depends on what regulatory pathway that you have and what your requirements are or your guidelines are for doing this reliance. And I think that in itself is to show that people want to rely on AMA and will allow them to sign the treaty on time. Now, talking about, but if I may add, in areas where we will not restrict to treaty or non-treaty is in the area of safety. And for me, a regulatory authority or a country without safety is not acceptable. So in the area of safety, anything that is done continentally under AMA will be made available to all countries. It will be there because safety does not know borders. And if there's a safety issue, products would end up on any market. There was a question on sustainability. AMA has member state contributions. So state parties have pledged to contribute a certain amount towards the operations of AMA. Once AMA sets its systems in place, it would also rely on user fees. And this system is already being designed. So for centralized approvals, the fees, for scientific opinion fees, for GMP inspection fees. So AMA rely also on these user fees, and then thirdly on partner and donor support. But that is transitional, and as we get progressively into our user fees, partners are always there, and partners will be there, technical and funding partners. We will use them, and then the member state contributions, and we hope that we will keep reviewing our scale of assessment and see how we're doing on member states' contributions, how we're doing on user fees, and keep adjusting as and when we go until we reach an equilibrium where we know that we can be sustainable for long term. Thank you.
I'm grouping questions because I know we're running short on time and we want to take advantage of your being here, Dr. Darko. So
Yes.
one group of questions has to do with partnerships.
Okay.
So there's a question that is saying, considering the worldwide role of the ICH, is AMA considering an MOU with ICH? And then there's a question about regional bodies. How can regional harmonization bodies like WHO, EAC, Zanzibona benefit from AMA? I think there was another question about regional organizations as well. But I guess there's partnerships there. And then separately, what are the avenues for dialogue with industry partnerships? How will that work? And we understand that there's an Office for SME Innovation and Partnership. How will that work? So, regional bodies and then partnerships with the private sector. And let me add just one other question here. There are people who want to know how they can be in touch with you regarding programs they have. One organization is working with the Gates Foundation on issues within your ambit. They're wondering African Scientific Community Engagement, ASCE program, and it's partly funded by the Gates Foundation. They're also wondering how they can connect to learn more about the synergies between what they're doing. Again, they're a private sector working with Gates. How can they engage with you? So I've grouped about 4 or 5 questions together, but I think they are kind of in the same area.
Okay, so let me start by how AMA will work with the Rex. So if the meeting that we had with the NRAs, AMA knows that the Rex are existing regional platforms. The Rex are there to accelerate convergence, to accelerate reliance across the continent. So the Rex are more or less the one of the operational backbones of AMA. And the meeting that we had with the heads of NRAs last week, we had all the Rex present and they made input into our strategy on how best to work with them. They have existed before AMA. They are still going to be there. AMA is going to ensure that we recognize them as an established platform for regional collaboration, and they are the trust currently the trusted convener for the NRAs. And I used to belong to a REC as from my former background, and RECs work. So AMA will work through the RECs, not above them. So for everything that AMA does, the RECs will be involved. They are established, they have been there, they have shown promise, and AMA will work through the RECs. So they made an input into our strategy, and through RECs coming together, we formed the Continental Agency. We will ensure that any standards that are developed, they go through the RECs. The RECs are the reliance framework across the regions. And for any quality oversight or support that we need for convergence, we will work with the RECs. So the RECs will continue to operate regionally, and AMA will connect them for a successful model. We're fortunate that we have them, and therefore we will ensure that we use the RECs effectively. So that is how we will use the RECs. We will not replace them, but we'll ensure that all the decisions that they take are also centralized through AMA. The next question was about ICH. Yes, ICH, AMA has been approached, and we've had very good conversations with ICH on how ICH and AMA can work together. So that is an ongoing discussion, and we will ensure that it gets to a successful conclusion. Through an MOU, ICH does a lot of capacity building. They want to use AMA as an entry door to some of that capacity strengthening for countries and for NRA. So that discussion is ongoing. I'm not sure whether I missed anything. AMA working with WHO. WHO continues to be the standard, should I call it the standard, provide standards for which AMA will work. AMA is not replacing WHO, but there will come to a point where AMA will be trusted enough to actually even, become a regional authority for continental authority for some of the products that WHO may have done. So AMA is working very closely with WHO to strengthen our systems, to ensure that we work by the right standards. We will at some point also be assessed by WHO as a WHO listed authority, just like the EMA has done. And that working relationship is actually very, very, very close. So that's it. I'm not sure whether I have
Oh yeah, and what about dialogue with industry? Working
okay.
with the private sector and ways that people can connect to you to find out how they can collaborate to support this. What's the
Oh,
pathway and the avenue for industry and private sector engagement? And we asked about the Office for SME
yes.
Innovation and Partnership.
Yes. So I think I talked about the SME office right from the beginning.
Mm,
That office is actually set up for both um, local industry and um, innovators. So that office for us is what I call our flagship office for the program for the year. And it becomes
okay.
a point where industry can directly engage with AMA on their innovations, on regulatory pathways, on predictable pathways, on timelines, on any issues. So that SME office for us is very key, and it is going to be our strategy to engage with industry through that office. We have a very vibrant website, and
Mm,
it is going to be interactive, so that any questions that industry has, I mean, can be initially addressed through our interactive website, and then there is the opportunity to early engage with AMA on any issues that are a concern for industry. So for us, that office is going to ensure that it is there for industry, because we know that without industry we do not have programs. Industry
right.
needs predictability. Industry, what are the wants of industry? So AMA will be there to listen through that SME and innovation office.
Wonderful. Two other sets of questions very quickly. One of them has to do with uh, local manufacturing. And again, people have come in and I've lost. Oh, here it is. So one is asking about working with countries to build a reliable database of local manufacturing capacities and capabilities across Africa. Standardized manufacturing operations would significantly improve reciprocal regulatory acceptance across African countries. And there was another question also on,
I think I missed a bit of that because the line.
oh, I'm sorry. Um, so, um, so they were asking whether or not you're collecting data, reliable data on local manufacturing capacities across Africa. And they noted that standardized manufacturing operations would significantly improve reciprocal regulatory acceptance across African countries. Um, and it's also related, I think, to a question someone had about continental approvals. Let me see if I can find it quickly, where folks are wondering whether or not it's going to be possible there was a mention of the AU, but getting continental approvals, is that something that is going to be possible? I haven't found the specific words there, but basically, um, they're looking at, um, hold on a second. Well, the main question is, I think, about local manufacturing. There was a
Mhm.
question about being able to get approvals that are continental wide.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, here it
Okay.
is. Will AMA be rolling out a maintenance mechanism for continentally listed products? Um, and again, there was another one that had to do, they mentioned the AU. Um, but yeah, that's the main question there.
Okay.
Local manufacturing and
Okay.
continental wide acceptance of products or issuance of list continentally.
Okay. So I am assuming this all has to do with the acceptance, etc., has something to do with products that are manufactured locally. And if I will go back to the last continental listing that was done, and there was no local company, more or less, that was able to meet the standards. So
Mm-hmm.
these are some of the things that the SME office is going to find out. What was the reason? What is the status of manufacture on the continent? What support does local manufacture need? AMA may not do it directly, but AMA will work through the NRAs to ensure that the industry is well supported. So any information that comes through the AMA SME office is going to be directed to the NRAs of the countries. The idea is to ensure that whatever is the requirement, it is a continental requirement. It is an international standards by which we should manufacture. What are the needs of the NRAs to be able to support the local industry? Sometimes it's to do with documentation, sometimes it's to do with good manufacturing practice, but AMA has to support the agencies to support the industry. The other way around, if there's an innovator who wants support, it is the same way that AMA is going to go. So AMA is not going to have any direct dealings with the local industry per se, but AMA's SME office collects that information and sends it down to using its technical committees to the countries, and then builds the support base or the system strengthening base that the industry needs. So we will work with the NRAs to align clinic GMP inspections the way they are done by strengthening the NRAs to ensure that if an inspection is done under AMA's umbrella, it is a standardized inspection that is acceptable internationally, that will go to strengthen the industry. Industry have their own challenges. Some of them are financial, etc. But at least where regulatory is concerned, AMA will ensure that there is a clear pathway. They are not fragmented standards. If you're in one jurisdiction, this is what is required. If you're in another jurisdiction, it is centralized and harmonized so that an investment becomes viable. I mean, there are times when industry, depending on who does has an oversight, industry does not have what we call predictability, and that also goes to affect, um, um, should I say, financial investments. So we aim to ensure that we have predictability for the oversight of industries. We collect all the information that or the challenges that industries may face, that regulators may face, and bring them together to be able to support them. So yes, it will be standardized, but the work will still be done through the NRAs. The oversight will be done through the NRAs, but AMA will still play that coordinating, predictable information role, predictable regulatory pathway role, predictable support role to the industry, to ensure that we are working with other groups like Amina, to know what is being manufactured on the continent, what support is needed, etc. So we're working with other bodies to ensure that we get that information. Thank you.
So here's from the side of companies, many of whom are members of CCA, like MSD, or a part of our regulatory network like GB Pharma. So this is from the context of those producing products outside. When can we expect an advanced operationalization of AMA, allowing applicants to start submitting new applications continentally? Or for a company seeking to register drugs made in the USA, must these drugs have how can they be fast tracked for registration? Um, uh, so someone else was asking about marketability. Will in light of the steps being taken by the AU towards free market access, when will they be able to register a product in one country that will confer marketability in other signee countries? So this is more about what's the
When
best
will
way to
Amma
put it?
start
Yeah.
working?
Oh,
Hurry
no,
up,
no, no.
Amma.
No, we don't mean it that way. No, but when will companies that are looking to take advantage of, what AMA offers continentally, when will that it begin to happen? How will people who want to apply for applications continentally or across the, different markets, how will you all be working on that?
Okay, all right. So I started by saying that AMA had a foundation, that is the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization, and they did a tremendous job.
They
So they
did.
did the first set of
AMRA.
continental
Mm-hmm.
listing. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it was under the Awuda NEPAD agency, and they did the first set of continental listing. We're looking at doing the next one for the medical devices. Now, I think 10 or 11 products have been listed. What I started off by saying sorry, what I started off by saying was that AMA, unlike the AMRH, is a legal entity. Okay, so and AMA is established by treaty. So everything that has been done is going to be, should I say, institutionalized in AMA. The technical committees, the safety monitoring. I talked about the fact that you cannot, it is irresponsible for any agency to put a product on a market without the necessary quality and safety monitoring in place. So we are using that approach to ensure that we have the systems in place to monitor whatever we put, we list continentally to put on the market. If you ask me for a time frame, I'd say that within the next year, AMA would have set all the systems in place to be able to do another listing. But we want to make sure that it is a responsible listing and the backup mechanisms or the backup regulatory functions are available at the same continental level that the listing was done. So I would say according to a strategy, I would say maybe in the next year, we will be able to do another listing. We will be able to monitor the safety and the quality of those that were already listed as part of our foundation, and we will be open for business. But I always say that if I look at the EMA, that is our closest, we call them our sister agency. The EMA started with what we call systems before authority. That's how I call it, and it is for me key that you have the systems in place before you start running without systems. Any agency that does not have the systems in place, I don't think it would be an agency that would be trusted. So give us about a year or so to put the right systems in place so that when there's a continental listing or there's a scientific opinion done under AMA, the industry is certain that it was done right. The patient knows it was done right. The NRAs know that they have the support to be able to monitor those products on the market. So that is what I would say now. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Darko, there are other questions, but we don't want to dishonor our commitment to you to have you on here for an hour. It's been an honor to have you. Let me apologize to those of you whose questions I didn't get to group with others or address specifically. Dr. Darko has done an incredible job of answering so many of the questions here. And perhaps I can have my team led by Mariah Essier, our director of health programs, gather the questions that are here. And, perhaps we can follow up with Dr. Darko if she or her staff have enough time to get back to you. So, Mariah, if there's a way for you to capture all of the questions in the Q&A and those that, are critical that we didn't get to and Dr. Darko didn't get a chance to answer because I didn't give her those questions. Maybe we can follow up on that. But again, thank you to everyone for being here. So important to be having this discussion, especially at a time where we have, new institutions like AMA on the continent that are really making it clear that Africa is the market to be focused on. There are many, many opportunities there across many sectors, including, of course, health. And we're delighted at CCA that we are able to bring the leadership and the vision of people like Dr. Darko and on behalf of AMA to our members and so many other stakeholders in the health space. Dr. Darko, please wrap up by telling us what we can do for you. How can we support you? We're talking about what you can do for us.
How can you?
How can we work with
So,
you and help AMA to be successful?
okay, so I know there's a lot of expectations from AMA. It is a new agency, it is promising a lot, etc. But what I'd like to say is that what we are trying to do is to resist the temptation of doing everything at once. We're trying to resist the temptation of running when we have not learned to walk.
Mm.
And what I can ask is that um, our success, the success of AMA will be measured by the confidence it instills, the predictability for regulatory pathways and its performance. So I would say that give us the opportunity to become credible with our systems, the structures. AMA is not going to be run on projects. It's not a project-based agency. It is an agency that is institutionalized that will rely on the systems that it puts in place. If we have good systems, you can be sure that regulation will be predictable for both the industry, for the patient, for the NRAs that we are here to support, for the NRAs that we are relying heavily on, allow us to build the capacities to ensure that they can give a good continental review that will be trusted by all from the WHO, from the reference agencies. So we will build our systems. We promise you we will do it quickly. We will invest in strong governance systems, strong scientific committees, sound quality management, added value. And I can assure you that once AMA starts to run, you know that we are not going to run and fall. So just allow us, support us to be able to put in the right systems, to prioritize our activities, and to ensure that AMA delivers to the patient. And at the end of the day, for all of us on this platform, the most important person here is the patient. So AMA will ensure that we deliver by building the right systems and we build trust in everybody, including the patient. So that is all I can ask. We will be there, we will get there, and we have started in the right way to get there. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. And uh, Dr. Darko, you have the commitment of the Corporate Council on Africa, our members, the people who are part of our advisory boards on national regulatory authorities, the briefing series we're doing. You have our commitment that we will give you all the support to be successful and look forward
Thank
to
you.
following up and collaborating with you on this journey, a really important one. So thank you so much again for being here with us. And we wish you the best of luck. And hopefully we'll get a chance to meet in person. I'll be in Addis soon, but I know you're in Kigali. So but it's our
You are
hope that
welcome,
we'll,
Ali.
yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
very
you very much.
everyone for being here. We had a huge turnout. Thank you. Goodbye.